G'day everyone, this is Einke here. Welcome to Investor Journeys, where we chat with everyday Aussies and seasoned investors about their property journeys, the wins, the stuff ups, and everything in between. Whether they've got one property or a whole portfolio, we dive into how they did it, what they've learned, and what their journey's been like so far. No fluff, just real stories from real people. So let's get stuck in. G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of the IJ podcast. Lovely to have you along. We've got another exciting story to share, and with someone I actually work well professionally at the moment, and he's a director of Fletchers Real Estate. So welcome, Varun. Thank you for joining in today.
Hi, Inka. Hi, everyone.
Thanks for joining in, mate. Look, obviously, we've done quite a few deals together. You're obviously a well-renowned agent in the Victorian space. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the moment at Fletchers?
So, I've been in real estate since 2017, and I only have worked in Melton area, and it is known as the most affordable pockets of Melbourne. I started as a rep, obviously, when you start as a ground level agent. And my first 3 years have been really, really well. Like, so 2017, 18, and 19, I've been the number one agent in first 6 months. I kept going for first 5 years or 4.5 years into my different real estate agency. I did really well. My numbers were significantly higher. And I thought to myself, I need some sort of growth because my numbers started to become stagnant. And in my fourth year and my fifth year, I started speaking to the group saying, I need to lead somewhere or I need to do something where I feel the growth and I can be satisfied for my capabilities. I wasn't getting satisfied with the capacity that I had. So I approached Fletcher's Real Estate and they saw what I wanted to achieve and they saw worth in me. Then, yes, in 2022, I opened up Fletcher's Real Estate in Melton as a director. We started as a sole director, sole agent, and Double, who is in my team, and he holded my hands from day one. And he was with me for the first year, and it was very crucial. One challenging bit was when I started real estate or Fletcher's Real Estate as a director, as an office, the market started to slide down, so that was very, very challenging for me because just as a two people, you are opening up an whole agency. And when I've seen my numbers be so high and straight away have no grounds. So yeah, my first 3 years have been very tough. So I've kept my whole ground pretty tight. This year, when the markets are taking very well, we've done good transactions this year, and I've had a big loss in my family where my father passed away 21st May, and that's again put me in a spot. But I'm not taking that as a stop or anything. I know my dad's going to give me blessings to improve, and he always wanted to. So here we are.
Fantastic. Well, that's a good background, mate. I mean, yes, it would have been a tough start, but I suppose looking at the sort of glass half full, the fact that you were able to establish yourself in, a fairly stable market and you're not trying to compete with all these other established agencies already in a hot market, you're able to sort of ground yourself, I suppose, to an extent. And then when now the momentum has shifted, you're already set, ready to go, right? So I think that was, that's a good thing, but I can completely appreciate the difficulty when you've done extremely well to start and now you've come into a market, and that's just the way real estate works, isn't it? I think the Melbourne market generally obviously has been quite, underperforming compared to a lot of other areas over the last 5 6 years, but it's all changing and that's just the cycles. And yeah, look, obviously we've done some really great deals together and we continue to do so, and I feel, in my opinion, like sales agents can be very closed off and they can also be very, reciprocative. So, I think with you, we were able to gel because we were able to get down to more of a conversation level, personal level, talk about what's fair for both of us. I think we basically made sure that we're getting good deals, where we can.
I agree with you. And one of the things which I really like working with you is we both talk straight, like, this is what it is, and this is actually the fact. And we both are fair. So we don't like take any advantage or disadvantage of anyone. And at the same time, we want to make sure we run and we go to sleep with peace. So I reckon that's one of the things that I love working with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as directors, we've got to be like that. We can't beat around the bush. So, yeah, so look, that's a fascinating background. But obviously, now I want to know a bit more about yourself personally. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your personal background, where you grow up, and was money spoke about in your sort of family background at all?
So I feel I've got a very interesting background. So I came to Australia in 2007, and I've come from a very poor family. My dad had a retail store for as long as what I was 21, 22 years. We've never had a house. We were only renting small apartments in Mumbai. And most of my childhood, when I was back in Mumbai, we've stayed in one room kitchen house. Luckily, I had very good friend circle. So I never compromised, and my dad never compromised for me to have good friends, be it going outside or pursuing my hobbies and stuff like that. So he was very supportive of that. And when I started to graduate from my school or college in Mumbai, my friends were preparing to go to Australia. And I've never ever had dreamt of flying up in a plane because obviously the financial conditions were such. But my dad gave everything possible from every corners of everywhere, and he managed to send me to Australia. And can you believe my Australian journey started with only $500, and that was it. So that's where I had to do everything from scratch and look for accommodation, look for a job. $500. If I spend that money in a day or in a year, and if I don't have anything, I had to go back. But my stars just aligned, and I got my first job within a first week of call center, cold calling, and I never looked back. And today as well, I think so. Today, I am very comfortable in terms of financial situation. I'm not really, I wouldn't say that I am in that situation like before. And my parents have blessed me every bits of my ups and downs. And yeah, because I was not a permanent resident here and I had good amount of savings, and on their 25th anniversary, I think I gifted them a very beautiful two-bedroom house as a first my property, and that was gifted to my mom and my dad both. So that was there, and we still have that home, and we live in that home, and we love that home. So that was my first property ever, and that's how it started Australian, and my life up here. Seen ups and downs, and that's why real estate holds a very important portion of my life. It's not just job because I understand, buying a first home and we always into a financial crunch. So I understand what it takes to buy an investment property or a real estate first home buyer and stuff like that. So I think so. I just connect in every transaction and I feel really happy. And that's my small background. If in case you want to ask any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, I mean, look, congratulations to come from that kind of background and financial situation that you sort of faced in India. I mean, I'm sure there's a few out there very similar who've been able to come to Australia, but it's certainly no easy feat. And so coming with that kind of money and not just that, the responsibility you've got to make sure that you make your parents happy and proud because they've sacrificed so much for you to come here. And you've obviously done extremely well. I'm sure, obviously it was a huge shock for you with your dad this year, but I'm sure he would have been proud about what you've been able to achieve and, coming from very, very humble beginnings. So well done on that. With that property that you bought, where was that? Was that in Melton as well?
We bought a
In India.
room our first box back in Bombay
Ah,
because
got it.
that's where my parents live. So that I wanted to give them their home. So it was their home that I had to give them. So yeah, that was my first property back in Bombay. Yes.
Ah, fantastic. I'm sure the real estate transactions over there are a lot different to over here. But yeah, and so you come over here, you're doing cold calling. Obviously, that's helped you to a degree and face, I suppose, the music when it comes to calling people. But, what was your first venture into property and what was that like for you?
I already spoke about my first property back in Bombay, and then after that, I bought one more farmhouse back in India because again, I had no permanent residence here. So those two homes are going to be life homes, and both these homes back in Bombay, they've grown double in value in some time. So they are pretty well. But in terms of my first home officially in Australia was in Melbourne. obviously as a first home buyer, and that was in Truganina.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the decisions of buying a small home, I still regret it because my income, touch wood, was pretty well to buy two or three homes at that particular time. And my broker and sales agent from Burbank, she did advise me, Varun, buy this, and buy this as well. And she was the first person, can you believe, back 8, 10 years ago, when I bought my land in Truganina, she told me to buy in Melton West. And the house with the land was costing me around about what 250 as a house and land package.
Mm.
And she said, "Varun, buy this and buy that in Melton West as well, and that will really grow." And I still monitor that address, what she gives me, and that's valued around about 700,000 today. And my property, which I bought it for 450, and I sold it last year for 715. So Melton grew so much, and Trigony obviously grew, but in terms of money,
Yeah.
that would have gone
You had
very
no
well.
opportunity cost. I'll tell you about my first transaction. I bought a property, a townhouse in Reservoir, and I had the advice by an accountant that I was speaking to at the time. Obviously, this is back in the day, and he was like, "Why don't you?" Because I was living in Box Hill at the time, and he's like, "Why don't you just buy an established house in Burwood? It's around the same price." And I said, no, I want something new. I want the stamp duties, concessions. That's what really triggered me. And I can't tell you the difference between a townhouse in Reservoir and what that costs now, and established house in Burwood, right? Like you're talking $500,000. So, I suppose if I took the same advice, I would have been much better off. But at the end of the day, you learn from these things, and you only know what you know at the time. So, no doubt, at least you took action at the end of the day. So, have you still got the house and? Oh no, you said you sold it. Did you?
Sold it, yeah, sold it last year, and that was my PPR. So what I did is I sold my PPR in Triganina, and I sold one of my other investments in Coble Bank, and I combined these two properties to buy a bigger home in Point Cook as a PPR.
Got it. Yep.
So we bought a big land, big home in Point Cook, and combined these two up there. Yeah,
Fantastic. So you had the 2, you've combined it to buy PPR and Point Cook.
yeah.
And Point Cook, was that a much bigger purchase for you guys as well?
Yeah. So I wish, still I wish I could buy a bigger property. The property is beautiful. This is exactly what me and my wife and my family wants. The house is a big size. We always want a single story home, wanted a bigger land, so everything is okay. We've spent around about 120 or 130,000 in 1 year renovating, and I reckon we are a bit more behind of things. So we still are renovating. We bought it, you know, average looking property, which was an investment property for the seller. And now we are renovating according to our choices. Yeah,
Ah, fantastic. Yeah, Point Cook
yeah.
is no doubt looking pretty good at the moment too. So
It
that's,
is beautiful. It is.
yeah,
Yes.
very
Yes.
good part. So you're left
Yes.
with your PPR. What was next for you guys in your property journey?
So while I was doing that, so we settled on Point Cook, and then we bought the Point Cook. And then we also bought one property in Bacchus Marsh, which is a brand new property. We've got tenants in it. It cost us around about 615 or 617 complete, including stamp duty and landscaping, I think so as well. My mortgage and my rent is pretty much in par. So we are not out of pocket for that one too much, apart from the outgoings, which is pretty okay. And I'm quite happy. In 1 year, I reckon that value is around about 660, 670 now.
Okay.
And I have bought in that pocket because Bacchus Marsh, I like the community there, I think. Nothing against Melton or Point Cook or anywhere. It's just about the investment part. And the school up there is pretty good, like, because of the Bacchus Marsh. I could not afford as an investment property to buy in Woodley, which is
Mhm.
close to Melton. But I thought Bacchus Marsh is growing as well. So I thought I'll put my money into an area which is growing.
Yes. Yeah, Beckett's Marsh for me, it's almost like a little country town almost, but it's such a nice vibe there. It's the beautiful part of the world. Like if you get to go there, it's very traditional and you can tell it was, I suppose, an older part of Melbourne, but it's got the character as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes. And then after that, we bought a property in regional Queensland.
Yep. When did you purchase Beckett's Marsh?
So Bacchus Marsh and Point Cook were simultaneously together, but not at the same day. So we had just probably weeks apart. So Point Cook was done last year, sometime this time last year, and Bacchus Marsh was again sometime this year, but 2, 3 weeks after that. So August, maybe mid-August. That's where we started, and we got very good tenants there, and they look after our property quite well as well. And then I bought one property in Queensland for 470, regional Queensland, getting rent of around about exactly 650 per week. And we bought it for 470, and obviously the stamp duty in Queensland slightly lower. Yeah, I'm not sure about the net cost, but the same house is up for sale in the same street for 540 now. So I reckon that was a good investment as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, anything under 500 these days is extremely difficult, even regional Queensland. And to get that kind of yield, of course, is quite good. Are you able to disclose where it is?
It's close to Rockhampton or Roehampton in Queensland. The suburb's called Emerald. So I bought it in Emerald. Yeah, I wanted to buy somewhere else, but then the negotiations and everything was quite different. And I wish I used in getting some property in Queensland. But I reckon we are buying two more soon. So I'll speak to you about that. And if you can get us a good deal somewhere, like you always do.
Fantastic. You know how I negotiate, don't you? You know all my little secrets. So, yeah, I mean, look, tell me about the Emerald property. I mean, what made you choose there? And was it quite different, like in terms of the due diligence that you had to do with respect to the floods and, everything like that? Talk me through that process.
Yes. So I have a friend who joins me sometimes on Saturdays, and he's done a buyer agent's course. He's got access to some softwares and stuff like that. And then I also spoke to a few people other than you as well. They guided me to few suburbs, and this was one of them. And that was pretty much it. I spent a week or so scratching my head, and it is a risk without a buyer agent, I think. But I just thought of just taking that risk. But next time, if you ask me, I probably will be using an agent because buying in Melton or Melbourne, where I can drive around, is okay. But buying in Queensland, buying in Western Australia, it is best to have a professional because it's their professional job. Like how you asked me, I feel embarrassed about the flood risk and stuff like that. I tried to search for those and I was short of those resources. I spoke to the agent and I asked her, does this fall under flood zone and this and that? And I spoke to a few insurance companies to get insurance before the settlement or before going unconditional just to get an idea. I was not getting good resources and clear information. I rang the council and everything. I was very short of answers. And then I was under the pressure that, I want to buy something and I just want to get rid of it. And I still don't have the right answers of flood zones up there because Emerald is a place where it was flooded few years back and the overlays are not clear there.
What I find, especially in Queensland, that flood maps and the zones and whatever you can find online are usually outdated. But the crazy thing is that's what insurances use. And so when you get your insurance, they tend to hike the insurances up. As soon as they hike it up, you know that there's probably some sort of flood zone there. So you might get some tips from that. But yeah, obviously understanding what's happened in the past as well is quite critical. And obviously with your insurance, you can get flood insurance as well, right? In terms of cover. So those are sort of things you can protect yourself with. But yeah, I definitely appreciate where you're coming from. Just to let you know, Queensland is actually changing the way they are transacting properties. It's going to become similar to Victoria in August. They're giving a seller disclosure statement. So that's going to give all the, Section 32.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar things going to be happening in Queensland from next month. So that's
Wow.
gonna give the buyers a lot more
Confidence,
information,
yeah.
yeah, about the property. Now, obviously, it's all new. I'm still to wait to see what kind of impact that's gonna have with respect to the information that we get. It's probably not gonna change how we do things really, but at the end of the day, it's gonna give more confidence and gives people more, I suppose, information and safety to transact on their property. So, yeah, and look, I know Emerald as well. From the data perspective, it's actually very strong. So I don't think you're gonna do, wrong with that property. And so, yeah, I think you just hang on to that. You've obviously got a fantastic yield as well. In my opinion, from the numbers that you're telling me, it sounds like a pretty good purchase. And so, yeah, hopefully we can just sort of tracking that as you go. And it sounds like you've got a few more up, coming up in terms of
I
what you
need
want to
to.
do as well. I suppose the question I've got is, you've got your Bacchus Marsh property, which I believe you're going to do well with.
Yes.
You've got your Emerald property, which again,
Yes.
I believe you're going to have some really good short-term growth out of as well. And then you've got a few more properties coming up. Have you ever thought about what you want these properties to do for you? Is it like an income that you want to get from it, or you just want to build like a generational wealth through these properties? What is the purpose?
Yeah, there is not a clear answer. And I've tried to ask myself, my friends do ask myself, do you refinance your properties and buy something, or what do you want to do with it, or do you want to buy it from your super and stuff? I've never had any answers for them. I have not been educated about this bit. But the only thing is that I want to buy properties is what I always know. I've never refinanced my properties. I've never had debts of any sorts. And that's why I feel if I refinance, I'm increasing my debt. But I wasn't being told that, you buying properties and you're actually generating wealth against that. So no one enlightened me. And still, I need someone to sit down with me and, understand how much money I have or how much money we can generate from it.
I think with that culture that comes with where we come from, money is something you look after. So I can understand why you're saying you bought buying these with deposits. I also did the same, just an FYI, when I first started. And then later on, I just couldn't keep putting deposits all the time because I was very aggressive. So I ended up doing refinancing later in my portfolio. Yeah, I can understand. But yeah, look, I think the questions that you're asking yourself is you need to have obviously a good broker who can foresee the future, not just tell you your borrowing capacity on the next purchase. That's the first step is the long-term strategy. And then circling back to what your purchase is, reverse engineering to the next purchase rather than looking at your next purchase by itself. And then obviously having someone who has knowledge about the long-term goals that you want to have, whether it be the income, whether it be the wealth, and then working backwards from there. But I think, yeah, at the end of the day, you're doing extremely well. You've bought your dream home. You're obviously doing some renos on that. You're buying number of properties now. So I'm really excited to see where it all goes. And it seems like it's just the start for you, especially the fact that you've purchased your properties in terms of your long-term holds last year. You bought a few before that and you've sold them. You're continuing on to buy a few more coming up, which is exciting. And are you still holding the ones in India as well?
Yeah, yeah. India never gonna sell. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They've got sentiments. We've got a commercial property. We've got a few residential properties. We're not selling.
Ah, okay. And what are you going to plan to do with them? Is that going to just be passed through the generations like it is in India?
I'm not sure. At the moment, because of my dad, I still see dad in all of these properties. So I'm not sure. Maybe after a year, if in case someone asks me, I probably will have a different answer. And obviously, my mom still wants to hang around. She gets her income from one of the commercial properties, which
Okay.
my dad has a retail. So we gonna keep that. And then the farmhouse back in India, that is property which we always cherish and we've got lovely memories with it. But yeah, we're not selling any of those ones back in Bombay.
Yeah, it's a wait and see answer, I think, there. So that's fine and completely understandable. I suppose I've got a question about the Indian properties. Are they hard to manage from here? Because I hear stories about if you're here, they are quite difficult to manage because the property management's not the same.
No, you're right. So we only have one property which we've rented out, the commercial property.
Right.
And we've had that tenant for a very long time. We've built relation with him. He's a professional doctor. So the rent's always on time. We've got an agent who is managing that property. But you're right about that. The laws up there, they are very difficult. But that happens bit more towards regional part of India where the documents are not accurate and they're not managed. But all our properties, luckily, they are properly documented. So we shouldn't be having any issues.
Fantastic. Oh, my last question for you is very easy one. Are you planning to stay in Australia with your family? You're not planning to go back to India in the future? Do you have answers to that yet?
Yeah, so this is a question my wife always tells me that let's go back to India. But I reckon with my baby, she's grown up in Australia. And we got this answer, I think so last year, when India and Australia were playing cricket. And we asked my daughter, whom do you want to support? We thought, it's an obvious answer. She was wearing the blue jersey, Indian jersey. And then she said, I want to Australia to win. So I reckon this answer was answered by my daughter Lakia. And I reckon it's going to be a bit hard because she is growing up. She's made her friends. She knows all the nooks and corners of
Oh,
here.
yeah.
And she's got bringing memories in the parks and, the play centers or cafes and restaurants. So it's very hard.
I say this jokingly, but I love how the Indian cricket team, or at least the Australian cricket team, has determined your future. But no, I completely get that. Look, I mean, I grew up in New Zealand. I support New Zealand all day, every day, and I'm not from there, so I grew up there when I was very small. So, yeah, that's all good. I mean, it sounds like you've got some really exciting, journeys and chapters in your life to come with, especially with your kids. And, great to hear about your story from India. And I'm really excited about your future prospects with property as well. You're obviously doing fantastic as a sales agent too, mate. And you obviously know the game. So really happy to have you on today to
Thank you,
share
Venga,
your
for
journey.
having me.
No worries. And if anyone wants to, grab a property, reach out to Varun. He's a great sales agent, and I'm sure more than happy to have a chat with any of the listeners in the Melton area. But mate, thanks for coming on, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Venga. Thank you for having me. Bye bye.
No worries. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next episode. See ya. Hey, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the chat, feel free to drop us a rating on Spotify or wherever you listen. It helps us reach more listeners to help them with their journey. Catch you in the next episode.